Excellent. Very good then. Ooh, la-di-da. Dooby-dooby-doo. Dooby-doo. All right. Back again. Ooh. Yeah. Kind of switched position. You can kind of see the cat's over here. So I'll lift it up. Ooh. See that? That was cool. I just went to a fabric store and they had these little prints and you could hang them like tapestries, right? So a low cost stage backdrop, baby. Know what I mean? And speaking of that, ooh, maybe I need my friend. Ooh. Oh yeah. Okay, one more. Yeah. Lighthouse over yonder. B. All right. And it wouldn't be complete. Oh yeah. Without this. So I wanted to mention again the alignment that I saw. All these synchronicities, like web of word, started lining up. And I'm like, wow. So you have the new moon, little slice, and then the star directly above. And I do mean straight up and down, like a plumb line, right? And then it rotates, click, click. Finally, it's here, right? The star. It literally rotated around. Not a plane, one of the brightest stars I have seen. And I'm like, okay. It was glowing, right? The star was emitting energy and then reflecting off the moon. And I'm like, this is very significant. And to me, it feels like a resonant harmonic alignment. Whether you recognize patterns, right? Pattern recognition in the sky, changes in the earth. This is what the ancient way is, period, just is. So I feel our folk soul memory is our life force, right? And when we recognize that, it wakes up. And I retuned again. It should sound better. But just like tuning, our energy is like that internally. And because I went through such chaos, I learned to focus in chaos, right? And be able to reform independent of the herd. And in Utah, it's herd mentality. I don't mean to be rude, I'm just saying. because they are just reading and then spouting back out, where, say, you're in the woodland, you're going to have to ponder and be connected to the medicine and vitality of the land. And so, to me, sovereignty and the sacredness, say, of your grandmother, grandfathers, plural, that went before you, their energy and very life force is in the land. However, I feel go somewhere. And so if you identify that and value your roots, I feel your ancestors are more likely to come to your aid. However, if you are living dishonorably, then I don't think so. But if you're living honorably, then yes, that power will come. But that is my opinion. That is why virtue is the flame. That's the heart's flame. So that's what I mean when I sing about that. When I say hold the flame, that means hold the spirit of our people, right? But that's a choice, like a choose your own adventure novel, right? So I turned up to 35% master recording volume. I tell you that so you can adjust. And I'm close to the mic, so I want to be careful not to blast it, but not undershoot so much it's muted. Wow. That's interesting. Too much? A little bit, huh? All right. Let's try. I'm going to drop to 20 and see what's up. All right. 20% volume. They come and they go. Only one flame remains. That's my grandmother and grandfather. Oh, see the root tone resonate. Better. Close your eyes. Can you see deep down in a chamber, heart and soul, they say, easy on the way. All right, time to read. So I wrote something down on the 4th. Very simple, boil down. Love or fear. Queen or king of love and truth. It's a choice, right? Now, that does not mean love is being a coward. Oh no, you must be brave to have true love. Very true. And to guard it, right? All right. We have chapter 8, The Men of Dia. Clear water slushed down over the great head, dragging away the coating of black mud, running it down across the swell of the chest. Hold on, drink. From beneath, a face emerged, broad, featured, thick-nosed, a round chin that broadened upward to a large forehead. The whole landscape of it seemed like an old mountain slope, worn by time and weather in the grandest of living, both good and bad. The Dagda shook himself as if he were a great hound, showering the young men with water and straightened from the water tub. Okay. Drink. Hold on. Drink. He barked sharply. And one of the workers resting nearby tossed him a leather flask. He poured back a large draught, belched heartily, and dropped down on a log. Setting his thick legs apart and leaning forward to eye Lou carefully. So you're wanting to know more about us here, are ya? He asked after a time. So this would be like sitting down with your grandfather or great uncle, somebody like that. Okay. His voice was direct and gruff, almost challenging. I do, sir, Lou replied boldly. I know nothing about your land or people. I want to understand what's happening here. The Dagda could see the truth of that in the boy's straightforward look. He nodded with satisfaction and smiled with a sudden congeniality. All right, lad. I can see that need in you is a real one. And from what Angus has told me, the Daytonans owe you a bit for your besting our High King. Bress is a master of humiliating men. Him and his arrogant lot. He passed the flask to Lou, who took a light drink for politeness' sake. It was harsh ale and very strong. The boy choked it down as the Dagda continued. I tell you what I can, but keep it well in mind that I'm no bard. We've few left here now, truth to say. Many are fled from Tara or are dead. Thanks to Bress and the bloody Famor. Between them they've scattered all our brightness, like a cold, fall wind does the turning leaves. They've left us only bare branches, and any tale I'll give you will be as barren. Please, tell me everything you can about yourselves and the Famor, Lou urged. I have to know how things came to be this way. Ah, well, our struggle with them has a long history to it, the Dogda said. He took the flask back from Lou and had another long draught and settled himself comfortably. I better settle myself comfortably. Okay. It was with our leader, Named, that we first came to see this place he began. We came from lands to the east seeking our own place, and we found our pleasant land in Ayr. We found it, but we weren't to have it then. The Famor were already about, you see, raiding Ayr from their island home. They tried to squeeze their tribute from us. But we would have none of that. We took our ships and attacked the Famor Island. But we had no chance at all. Those of us who lived through it will always remember the terrible powers, like none we'd ever faced before. Nearly all the ships were lost and Named perished, with all but 30 of us. Hard choices were made by the survivors then. Those without the will to go on returned to our homeland in the east. Those of us with the flame of adventure still burning in us sailed into the unknown western sea. We found a land out there, a strange and wonderful land that was called Tir Nanog, with 4 cities, Grand Phalias, and shining Gorias, Phineas, and rich Mirias. Their ruler, Queen Danu, welcomed us in and gave us help. We lived there for many years, calling ourselves the Tuatha De Danann, the children of Danu. After that fine queen, from her scholars, our children learned skills and knowledge of the arts and perfect wisdom. Our druids and physicians learned their magic arts, our numbers swelled, and we grew strong. Still, we knew that land wasn't our own. The image of this shining, pleasant land glowed in our minds. Pardon me. And we knew that it was here we would return one day. When that time came, we sent us back in a concealing mist before a strong and friendly wind. Our bards made songs saying that it was as birds we came, drifting down from the mist. But I know it was ships that brought us, because it's my own hand which burned them on the shore. We'd bound ourselves, you see, never to leave that place again. The tale had caught up with the Dogda fully now. He stared off into another time, his rough voice growling wistful as he remembered. Ah, we were a fine, strong people when we came. The young men and women filled with life and hope. Ogma, who taught writing, and Dian Kekt, who understood the healing arts, and Gobnu the smith, and Mab and Moka, women of fighting skills no man could match, and the Morrigan, the raven of battle. Beltane was the day we came on, the first of spring, to settle a place where we would find our peace. To settle the place where we would find our peace. But there was someone here before us. Vier Bolgs, they called themselves, the men of the bog. Vier Bolgs? Questioningly, Lou asked, who are they? A tribe of men as wild and as hard as the barren lands where they are living now. They know little but the ways of the earth and animals. But they're the finest fighting men I've tried my sword against. When they saw us coming, they drew all their warriors up to face us, and we went out to meet them. We spoke to these men so different from us. We found that our language was the same. They were our own cousins, descended from those who'd gone back to the east. Years of being enslaved there had turned them hard and cruel. But like us, they kept the dream of Iar alive in them. Finally, they'd escaped their masters and returned. But what about the Fomor? Lou asked. Where had they gone? They were here. They'd made a peace with the Vier Bolgs, who paid a fair tribute. Our cousins had settled the land and built their homes. We told them that we only wanted to do the same. We asked to share the land. They refused us. They were afraid to give us anything, thinking we'd someday take the rest. Well, it wasn't war we wanted, only a place to live. But we'd made our vow to stay, and so we made ready to fight. A midsummer day, it was when the battle began. A bright, warm, peaceful day. 11 battalions of the Daytonans went out against the same of them. 4 days we fought on the broad plains of Mogturied. Tureed. Great feats there were done on both sides, and many champions came to their deaths. Then at last we gained the better of them, routed them across the bloody meadows. There were only 300 of the Furbolgs left unhurt in it when they finally made their peace. After that, they took their families off into the rugged country to the west and south and left the rest of us. We took possession of it and built our great fortress here at Tara Nagri, what was called the Beautiful Ridge, and beautiful it was, with the green meadows rolling away in every direction, thick grass furred by great forests alive with game and great herds. At last, we had our place to live. He paused there, looking off into the distance, seeing that golden past. Then, the harsh reality of the muddy trench and the starving, exhausted men round him returned to him. His face hardened and angered, heated with words. Then, the Fomor came again. I still don't understand how they got power over you, said Lou. Didn't you fight them? We might have fought if Nuada had still been our king. The Dogda answered. Nuada? Lou said in surprise. He was your king. It was my uncle, Nuada, who led the battle against the Furbolgs. Angus Og supplied, but he lost his hand in the fight. Lost his hand? Lou exclaimed. But that silver hand I saw. Diane Kecht, our surgeon, and Credine, our smith, labored with the skills given us by Danu to build the silver hand, said Dogda. Still, it wasn't enough. You see, Lou, it's an old and foolish belief of our people that no man can rule if he's not whole in body. Aha. Angus bitterly explained. It was decided that Nuada must be replaced. So he's talking about You had to be without blemish in order to rule, right? Most effectively. So if you were maimed like that, you would have to have a new king. He has his own opinion. So far it's a good book, but I'm just saying. And also, once he got the silver hand, he was made king again, because he was whole again, right? Anyway, my poor brother was broken by the loss, the Dagda said sadly. He felt that he had failed us somehow since that time he sat alone drinking in that hall, feeling defeated and useless. His help to you is the first sign of life from him in years. How did Bress become the High King, Lou wondered. Oh, he was such a fine champion and such a handsome young man when he was chosen, the Dagda replied sarcastically. A fit ruler for the likes of us. Everyone loved Bress, especially our ladies, but it wasn't long after that he changed. Now he's never open-handed, always using his power to help the Fomor bleed us, to tax us and leave us to decay. I can't believe the people let this happen, Lou said. No matter how terrible the Fomor seem. Our people were ready to believe the Fomor couldn't be beaten. Dagda said. Our years in the four cities made us as soft as slavery made the Furbolgs hard. Our younger people had become lovers of beauty, not warriors. Few kept the tough spirit of my son. They were certain it was the magic of our druids, not our fighting skills and courage, that defeated the Furbolgs. But that magic would be useless against the Fomor powers, which had defeated us once before. And with only force arms, we've had no chance against such monstrous beings. There must be others like you, Lou told the Dagda. Other warriors ready to fight. There are, but we're not many anymore. Some died in the battle against the Furbolgs. Others are held by ancient oaths of loyalty to support the High King. Look at Morrigan. There's none so independent of spirit as she. But even with that, even with her love of battle and her blood madness, she'll follow the High King. So long as he is on the throne, she'll obey his commands, no matter how much she disagrees. And the Fomor are draining us in any way they can, Angus put in. They've done everything they can do to weaken us. They've destroyed our schools, scattered or killed our artists, teachers, bards, druids, physicians, anyone who keeps our culture alive. They've starved and defiled us at every chance, and anyone they think might challenge them is kept working at impossible tasks by Bress. I've been digging these unneeded ditches about every fortress in all Ayr, the Dagda said. The labor never ends. They hope that by keeping us worn and hungry, they'll destroy our will to fight. I think they must fear us more than the Furbolgs, Angus said thoughtfully. The Fomor treated them mildly, but they're out to crush us totally, and they've nearly succeeded. We've barely enough strength to fight. We try to keep resistance alive, but it's growing harder each day. It's because of that I want to understand the way things are, Dagda told him earnestly. Because of your spirit, Nuada would like to see you leave us. For the same reason I'd like to see you with us. Yes. What do you say? said Lou. Angus urged, "You must hate the Fomor. You certainly went after them today. You've seen what they're doing to us. Join with us and help us find some way to fight them." Lou's first impulse was to say yes to them. But he held back. He remembered his bond with Monanon, and he remembered the words of the girl, Ein or Ain, okay? He still didn't know enough to make his judgment. Remember, that's Aine. He had to keep his mind open. There were still too many questions left unanswered about the Fomorians and too many things he had to see proven. Regretfully, he shook his head. "I'm sorry," he told them, "but I can't join you now." "What do you mean?" Angus said angrily. "What do you mean? What can be stopping ya?" "I need to know more," Lou said reasonably. "Don't you see? I know nothing about your struggle but what you've told me. If I'm to make a choice, give up my will to you, fight in your battles, I've got to see the truth of these things. I've got to see the truth of these things for myself." "What else do you have to know?" Angus demanded. "You've seen the suffering, the starving, the cruelties. What do you?" "Quiet now, Angus," the doctor commanded. "Don't press the lad. I understand his feelings in this. He's a stranger here. It's not his fight, and you can't make him pledge himself to us until his own mind is settled. I think it would be best for us to help him discover what he needs to know." "Thank you for that, sir," Lou told him with relief. "I could surely use some help. It's these Fomorians I need to know about. I've got to get beyond their monstrous look. I've got to get as close to them as I've been to you, to find out who they are and what they're doing and why." You'd be mad to try doing that," said Angus. "You look like one of us. They'd kill you, without a thought, if you came too close to them. And I can tell you for certain that they'll not sit about and drink and talk with you like we have. There must be some way I can get closer to them," Lou said. "There just might be," the doctor responded thoughtfully. "There's a place in town where they gather to drink. I might know a way you could go in there, unknown, but it would be dangerous. 'Tis also necessary. I can't tell you how much," Lou told him firmly. "Please tell me what I have to do." Okay, that is the end of that chapter. Chapter 9, the clown. Let's see. Let me drink. So I think he's going to disguise as a bard. I don't know, but that would make sense. The clown. The clown! Let's see. Lou pulled the coarse wrapping of wool about his face more tightly as a group of Fomorians pushed past him into the building. He looked the place over uncertainly, wondering if he could get away with this. He'd seen scores of Fomor enter the large timber-sided hall. He could hear the loud talk and laughter of a large number inside. His hope was that in such a crowd he'd go unnoticed. The wrapping of his face would help disguise him. Angus had told him that many of the Fomor wrapped their heads or other parts to mask deformities, too hideous even for fellow Fomor to stomach. If he could play the part, he might be able to talk with some of them. There was nothing to gain by hesitating longer. We walked to the doorway of the hall and looked inside. As he walked on down the hall, It was a long, low-ceilinged room, well lit, but filled with oily smoke from the many torches. Fomorian warriors filled the tables, crowded the benches about the outer walls. All were drinking. The combined odor of smoke and ale, the stench of the masked beings rushed to meet Lou. The sight of this sea of monstrous human parodies reminded him harshly how alone and vulnerable he was. He froze, suddenly afraid to move. The idea of entering this loathsome place too terrifying for the boy to overcome. Fear is the mind killer, remember Dune? As he hesitated on the threshold, a figure weaving its way through the door. Through the tables caught his eye. Some of his terror faded, replaced by a curiosity that turned to amusement as he watched. For even here in the awful place, Lou felt that this was one of the most peculiar individuals he'd ever seen. It was a tall and very awkward man, all arms and legs, it seemed. He managed to tangle himself in nearly everything he passed, so that he was constantly unwinding his limbs and himself from the posts and tables and other men. He wore an old tunic striped in once bright colors now faded by age, which flapped round his knees. His shoes seemed far too big and flapped, too, so that he made quite a noise as he moved along, rather like a flock of rickety crows, Lou thought. He had a dull black sword, unsheathed, stuck through his belt and sticking out naked behind, where in his gyrations it was always dangerously close to sticking those nearby. His cloak was pulled up over his lean head, and through holes in the hood his ears poked out absurdly. A long, unkept beard of wispy yellow hair fluttered about like a tattered scarf. As he moved amongst the tables, he somehow managed to juggle 4 shiny marble spears, keeping them whirling in a large circle as he staggered round the warriors. He stumbled and reeled, tripped and nearly fell again and again, but always kept the balls going, adding more to those in the air until a half dozen were spinning there. The coarse warriors watched his antics with amusement, waiting for him to fall. Lou realized that the clownish individual was actually trying to entertain them. The act ended abruptly. The tall man tumbled over a stool and landed sprawling on his back in a wild pratfall. Still, he managed to catch every falling spear. The Fomor roared with laughter. Sounds like me with, like, you have to juggle at the table when you're chef, like, let's see. Plates behind my back, like spinning and catching them behind my back. Salt shakers, catching those behind my back, juggling those. I used to do that as a Japanese chef when I was being trained as a teenager. It was cool. But their smiles disappeared when he arose and moved about them, saying imploringly, "A little drink for some laughter, my handsome warriors. A bit of food for a poor hungry man." The warriors growled darkly and turned away from him. Some pushed him away, and one, irritated by his begging, sent him sprawling again with a solid kick. He rose painfully and shuffled away, rubbing his backside and trying to smile, but ruefully now. Lou felt a surge of pity for the simple, awkward clown. Then the man noticed him, still hesitating on the threshold. Drink. Hailed the jester. Hold on. Oh. Ooh, what's this? Can you say? Yeah. shining on. To the boy's surprise, the clown's face split in a wide, ludicrous grin. And he moved toward Lou, raising a long-fingered hand in a greeting. Welcome, welcome, he said heartily. Hold on. Welcome, welcome, he said heartily. Though no one else will likely say so here. But you look in need of it. You do. He spoke in a rambling way, but with a real warmth and enthusiasm that enveloped Lou. Almost at once, the boy found himself liking this peculiar fellow. And he didn't object when the clown laid a long crook of arm about his shoulders. I've not seen you here before, that I haven't, he said, drawing the boy forward into the room. But I can see by your eyes you're a young one, and alone too, new to Tara, Arya, then. Lou only nodded. Wow, look at that. Wow. Feel the sunlight hit me. Whoa, tripping. Feel the energy. Wow. Okay, focus. Okay. New to Tara, Arya then. Lou only nodded. He didn't trust his voice not to give him away yet. Oh well, it's hard being new to a place. You see, I've seen many people in my wanderings. I know when a lad is lonely in the world and needs a bit of comforting. I do that. Now, there's not much for hospitality here, as you've likely noticed, but there's no one ever said Gila de Care never made a man welcome. That there is not. He told all this to the boy with a broad grin as he led him back through the tables. Lou noted with relief that none of the others in the room gave them more than a passing glance. Many of them did have masked faces, as he did, and the clothing Angus had supplied him was the same. He decided he would go along with the clown and see what he could discover. The tall man maneuvered Lou through the warriors to a far corner where there was an empty space. There we go. Give me a second. Reposition. Wow. Look at that shit. Move closer. There we go. Oh. Wow. Sit down, boy, he invited Lou, pushing him down on a bench. You look like you could use some food and a drink. I could, Lou said, in as deep and hoarse a voice as he could manage. I could. Well, you're not likely to be offered any here, so I'll offer what little I've got to you myself. Yes, I will do that. He looked round him searchingly to be certain no one was watching, then plunged his long hands into the deep of that ragged cloak. Before Lou's astonished eyes, he began to pluck forth items and place them on the on the tabletop. There was an incredible wealth of food, fruit and bread, vegetables, cheese, and a great slab of roasted meat. The large items appeared miraculously from the cloak and piled up in a heap. And you could use a bit to drink as well, I'd guess, said Gila. With a flourish, he reached again into the cloak, whisked out a leather jug brimming with ale, and set it by the rest. There, Enough for two, I think, he said modestly, and dropped down by Lou on the bench. The boy looked it all over wonderingly. Where did this come from? He asked. I picked it up here and there. The clown answered lightly. You mean with all the stumbling about, falling over the tables you were, collecting, Gilla finished. That's what you call it, and it's only what's rightly owed to me, that it is. In times past I've always been treated well, where I entertain, always feasted at the chieftain's table. But not here any more. Oh no. They tolerate me because they like a bit of coarse fun, but I'd get nothing from them. The mean, ill-spawned brethren of boors. Why are you saying all this to me? Lou asked, alarmed by the man's open attack on the Famor. Aren't you afraid? I'll tell you the others you've been stealing. Aren't you worried about insulting one of them? I would be, Gilla said softly, smiling shrewdly at the boy. If I was speaking to one of them. What do you mean? Lou demanded, trying to sound outraged. I'm as much a Famor as my poor tender backside, Gilla finished. Come on, lad. I saw it when you came in, all alone with those bright young eyes and the easy walk. Lou didn't know what to say. He was cornered in a room full of these brutal warriors, revealed by the absurd grinning clown. Lad, rest easy, Gilla reassured him. Seeing the alarm in the boy's eyes, I'll not give you away. I've only admiration for your courage in coming here, though you must be mad for doing it. Oh, that light's right in my face. Okay, hold on. Now it's on my forehead. I only mean to give you help if you need it. Now, have some drink, relax, and tell me what you're after. Lou tried to relax. Took some of the ale and drank a bit. I'm only here to find out what I can about the Famor. I'm a stranger to Ayr. It's important for me to learn. You're choosing about the most foolish way you could to do that. And there's very little you'll learn here from these men drinking and telling of filthy tales or about their only interests. They're not much the ones for talk. They'd be out roaming the streets for women if there were any left of them. But Lou wasn't listening to the clown. He had noticed another man who had entered the room. He didn't look like a Fomorian. His body was free of obvious deformities, and his features seemed normal. Of course, and very dark, he was dressed in a richly textured tunic and cloak, and moved with authority through the warriors. Two Famor flanked him like guards, pushing way for him, and those who looked up looked quickly away, as if afraid to be seen watching him. They made their way through the room to a back wall not far from Lou and Gilla. A wicker screen was covering a large opening there, and the guards moved it aside so the man could pass behind it. VIP. Where does the doorway lead? Lou asked Gilla. The clown glanced round at it and shrugged. It's just a separate area for more officers. Most of them aren't so hard to stomach as this lot, and they like to have a place to eat where they don't have to see the rest of us. Lou watched the doorway longer, curious about the man he'd seen. Soon he noticed a warrior near the door get up from the tables and make his way to it. He looked like the other Famor, shabbily dressed, his face wrapped like Lou's, with a heavy scarf covering nose and mouth. He paused by the wicker partition and looked round him with that same kind of wariness that Gila had shown before, taking out his food. Then he slipped through the opening into the separate room, but the quick glimpse Lou had gotten of him was enough to stun the boy. When he'd seen the eyes above the masking scarf, he had known without doubt that the Fomor warrior who had gone into the room was the High King of Tara, Bress himself. Okay. I'm trying to turn to the side. Maybe that helps. Wow, look at that. Whoa! Holy cow. Whoa, I'm like shining. I feel like it. I'll do it. Lou rose swiftly from the table and moved toward the doorway. Wait! Where are you going? Gila called after him. Lou paid no attention to him. It was all fixed on the separate room. He had to know for certain if it was Bress, and why would he come here in disguise? He moved through the crowd of men edging closer to the door. There was a large group gathered near it, watching two Fomor locked together on the floor, trying to get at one another with their knives. The rest were betting on the outcome. Lou worked his way casually around them and leaned against the wall by the edge of the wicker partition. He'd hoped for a crack that would allow him to look into the room, but there was none. However, the thinness of the barrier did allow the voices of those beyond the filter to filter out. By concentrating, Lou could pick up snatches of conversation above the raucous noise of the warriors. There are still far too many of them left, said a soft, arrogant voice that he recognized. It left no further doubt Bress was in that room. Time and work will take care of them, a harder voice responded. It'll burn that rebellious spirit out. You've said that many times, still hasn't happened. The Dogda, his son, and the rest of their lot seem as defiant as ever. And now this new lad has been seen talking to them. What? Now you're concerned about this boy? The other asked in disbelief. This boy? Yes. He's challenged me, brought Nuada to life, even bested your warriors in the street. Now that he's linked himself with the others, who knows what it means? I want to explain what's happening here myself. I want to find out what else I can do. I've already made arrangements to be away hunting as before. All right, the other agreed reluctantly, but I don't really see what else can be suggested. Something is happening, Streng. I feel it. That's Streng, Streng. That's also, you look that up, etymology. Okay? Something, or strength would be a root core, right? Something to do with that boy. If I can get no help, I may have to act myself. I think you're putting a great deal too much on this one lad. But we'll leave at once. I have a cart waiting outside. Lou strained forward, trying to get his ear closer to the partition. In his effort to hear, he forgot those in the room round him, until suddenly a hand fell heavily on his shoulder and he was wrenched about. He found himself looking up into twin slimy caverns, topped by a familiar pair of glittering pig eyes. What are you doing here? The Fomor demanded. You're not allowed about the officer section. Lou hunted desperately for some excuse to make, but he got no chance to find one. The man's eyes narrowed with sudden suspicion, and he yanked Lou closer, peering intently into his eyes. Wait a bit, he cried. I've seen you before, without this. before Luke had acted for more, reached up and tore the masking cloth away. So that's the end of that. Next is chapter 10, A Little Brawl. At this point, I'm going to take a break. Already? Oh, yeah. Remember, love or fear. But you can be the queen or king of love and truth. You need both. Discernment. Right? Right. Yes. Wow, look at that shit. Oh! Shining folk soul rhythm, come on. Feel it coming on. Shining hail. Hail our folk. See shining in the sun. Call them the links blue. Shine like light. Full spectrum I can hear. Heart song of my people on the light side. Folk soul memory. Oh. See it root down, root down, root down, oh. Sail for the sea, crow's nest to be. Think I heard you on the wind. I think you said everybody knows. Said I can heal it, heal it up now. I almost fell away, but I came back from the ground. Came back to low. Better than to fall away. Back low. All I have is a simple soul. And I know I'll see you on the shoreline. Sail for the shine, shine, shine. Oh, it's on the way. Shining like the sun. They know. They know. She was singing, I saw the light shining from her mouth, from her heart and soul. Circle around the fire, circle around the flame, circle around the fire, circle around the flame. Oh. On the window, way downstairs, shine like a blazing fire, blazing down, deep down in a chamber, heart and soul. In a chamber, heart and soul, where you're down so low. It's where the full soul lives to stay. One more on the fire, they say. When you try to burn me, become a sacred flame. Gotta slip away, shining oh, sovereignty on the land, baby, come on. I am fire, soul, ember burns, sand circle round night. Oh, grandfather, grandmother, hear the keening soul. Oh, way down. Come and go, see. Beware of the Ides of March, I said. We know why. Wise ones circle all around me. Way down, I remember always. Everybody know, find a way. That's a folk song memory, that's for sure. Room down said, you know, hey, hey. I always say, don't lose control. Shine on, deep down. Down in a folk soul, shining weed, and I'll be waiting, shining we, oh, shining we, oh. I remember all that fell down so from the ancient root to the soil, and I'm calling all the words of the world, every world where I forgot unity, tribe and family. Oh, it's a secret now. You know, way down the state, you know. Man, I.O. Man. Resonate to the core, you know. Many will be blind to the changes that are coming our way. Some will see and shine the light of our folk shining on. Way down, the light on the ground, shining down. Hearts remain rough as I am, rough as I am, you know. Sit easy on the green, say you know. Thank you. I shall return. The next chapter. Circle round. Love of our folk soul memory is forever.